if you have to evaluate a company for ESG yourself, or you want to understand how these companies, or even if you don't evaluate yourself, but you say, okay, SBI is claiming to invest, create an ESG fund. So how can I be sure that they are ESG compliant? We can split it by environment, social, and governance. So on environment, you have criteria like CO2 emissions, sustainable growth, R&D, and so on and so forth, listed here. You can take a quick look at that. Just to be clear, unlike, and there is a lot of movement in this direction now, but unlike ROC requirement or SEBI requirement of publishing quarterly your revenue, direct cost, employee cost, sales and administration, PAT, etc. There's a standard format, right? You look at any company, it has to publish its P&L balance sheet in the same format. ESG के लिए ऐसा कुछ अभी है नहीं, and European companies are at the forefront of it. They're trying to standardize it. In India also, SEBI has brought out some discussion paper, I think, or they're thinking about it as to how can you standardize ESG disclosures. So there's a lot of discussion going on in that. In fact, there are some academic institutions also looking to set up ESG centers and so on, which will standardize or bring about some measure of typical responses from companies. Har quarter aapko ye report karna hai, which could be zero. Like for example, a company which has no loans will have zero interest cost. Likewise, a company which has no manufacturing may have zero CO2 emissions, which is okay, but it's good to disclose it. Social side essentially includes things like job creation, livelihood improvement of communities that you interact with, labor relations, which is very important, community contributions or damage in the negative side, gender equality policies, prevention of sexual harassment and how you deal with whistleblowers and so on, diversity. On the governance side is corporate structure. The simpler it is, the better. The best corporate structure is a promoter family holding promoter shares, which is rare but happens. More complex structures are, there's two layers between, there's a trust, there is a company, and there are a lot of unlisted sister concerns held by the same company, and this company, listed company, deals with the unlisted companies by lending and borrowing. That's obviously a disaster from a governance point of view. And again, a good example here is DHFL. Auditor quality, you can have I use a simple measure saying, auditor ka email ID kya hai? This didn't work. This doesn't work anymore because anybody can create a good email ID with just 500 rupees. But back in 2012-13, if auditor had something at gmail.com, then he sort of knew that this is a small shop, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that it is an indication that a company with 10,000 crores is not able to afford an auditor, which is in the top 10 in the country, which is a little bit worrisome at times. It's not bad in itself. It just makes you think a little bit harder.